Hi, I'm Diego Torres, and this is my opinion about piracy. Piracy may seem like something small, but it actually has a big impact. An example is like when we download music, movies, or a lot of things illegally, we directly affect the people who were to create all these things. Also, this includes not only the big companies, but also independent artists, programmers, or also creator contexts who create these things and depend on the income of these things for relief. Now, from an ethical perspective, I think that piracy means like taking a lot of advantage of someone else's work without giving anything in return. It also goes against the culture of legality, like of the law, since it breaks a lot of rules created to protect intellectual property. It also affects the law, obviously, like I said, because when many people ignores these laws, not only this, respect for rules in general in the society becomes weaker. If we normalize like these actions, we may start justifying other actions that also are illegal. In conclusion, piracy may seem harmless, like nothing happens, but it actually contributes to an unfair and unethical system. So, in my opinion, I think that not to piracy because it's illegal.
Hello, my name is Esteban Suarez Prieto, and today I want to share my opinion about piracy, which is a different perspective from the ones you have heard. So first, I want to state that piracy is illegal, but it is also important to understand why it happens. Many people turn into piracy because they can afford the platforms by a legal way. These platforms can be Netflix, Spotify, Amazon for entertainment. There can also be Microsoft 365, AutoCAD that is more for like educational things. And well, in this is because in many countries with lower incomes, paying for multiple subscriptions or expensive software is impossible due to their necessities of money. So, from this perspective, piracy becomes a way to access culture and education and technology. For example, students who can afford expensive programs use them to learn and improve their skills. This raises an ethical question. Is it fair to limit knowledge only to those who can pay for it? Even though the law prohibits piracy, social reality shows a significant inequality. However, this does not mean that piracy is the solution, but rather that the system needs to become more accessible and fair for the ones who can afford these kind of luxuries. Thank you for your attention.
Many people don't consider the personal risk of piracy. Download illegal content can expose to virus, malware, and other personal problems. This can affect bank data, passwords, and privacy. In many cases, what seems free ends up being more expensive due to the consequence. Additionally, using illegal platforms can be linked to criminal networks that profit from these activities. Uh, from an ethical perspective, this also means indirectly supporting these practices. Therefore, behind legality, it is important to consider personal and digital security when making decisions about the content consumption. Supporting official services not only protects the integrity of our device but also ensure the sustainability of the creative industry. Um, the digital prevention is the most effective tool for safeguarding our identity in a vulnerable environment.
Piracy has important economic consequences that are often overlooked. When people consume content illegally, companies lose revenue, which can affect jobs and future investments. We often believe that we are only hurting large billionaire corporations, but that's only a common misconception. In reality, every illegal download represents a small decrease in the budget for future creative and technical projects. This impacts not only large companies, but the entire production chain, actors, developers, technicians, designers, developers, and more. Uh, Less income means fewer job opportunities. For instance, in the software industry, when a product is created, the company might decide to stop hiring junior developers or cancel internships for students. This creates a cycle where the very people trying to enter the professional world are the ones losing their future opportunities. It also reduces innovation, since companies have fewer resources to create new products. This directly affects the entertainment software and cultural industries. Innovation is expensive and risky. If companies cannot guarantee a return on their investment because of piracy, they will stop taking risk of new ideas, which slow down technological progress for everyone. From a transparency and legality perspective, Piracy also promotes informal markets that do not pay taxes or follow regulations. This is a critical point because those taxes are supposed to fund public services like education and infrastructure. When money stays in the informal market, our community loses the resources needed to improve our own social environment. In my conclusion, piracy is not only a legal issue, but also an economic problem that affects society as a whole.
No matter where to stand on piracy, it is a complex problem with no simple or impartially beneficial solution. On one hand, it is a punishable crime and affects the creators and industries that had a hand on their conception, especially small and independent creators that need to sell their products to survive. On the other hand, many people use it due to the lack of access or resources, either due to a high price or a lack of legal pathways to obtain them. A good example of this are PlayStation 2 games, in which Sony has taken out the legal pathway to obtain them and can only be obtained through illegal means. This is why the solution should not only be punishment, but also improving access to legal content. Content is usually blocked by paywalls and subscriptions, which limit the capacity of users to adequately use said content. A good example for these are Adobe programs, which are tied to a monthly subscription and can't be bought permanently. More affordable platforms, fair pricing, and student options can reduce piracy. It is also important to promote digital education on the dangers of pirated media and ethical awareness so people can understand the impact of this action on the creators of these products, most importantly on those small creators who depend on them. The goal should be to find a balance between protecting creators and ensuring access to culture and technology through proper and conscientious legislation, taking into account both the users and the creators' hand in the rise of piracy.